Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Dr. Hicks, for running the gauntlet. You're almost through it, really. It's not that much more. You've been very generous with your time, and obviously you've talked to a lot of us on the phone. I appreciated our conversation last week. Appreciated drilling down on some of these issues. And I've also appreciated, frankly, listening to your answers today, as Senator Inhofe, Senator Fisher, Senator Cotton, all have said as a high priority the same thing that you and I talked about last week. That is the modernization of the triad, and not just modernization or not just extension, but the replacement of key components of it, particularly the airborne and the land-based piece. And so I'm going to skip some of the questions I was going to ask you and maybe focus on a couple things I didn't hear a lot about. One of the areas that Senator Cotton asked you about, I think he even sort of bifurcated the issue of policy and the product over here from the cost piece over there. I want to ask you about the cost piece, particularly as it relates to the ground-based strategic deterrent. We've talked a lot about it. You've talked a lot about it today. Any delay in that would have it seems, a time value of money, part of it that would be detrimental. Could you speak a little bit to the economics of a delay?
Senator, first of all, I also enjoyed our conversation, so thank you very much for your time with me. The challenge I face not being in the administration and not being in the department is I don't know the answer to that question. What I can assure you is that if I'm confirmed, the way you phrase that question is, does the time value of money matter? I can answer that, which is yes. We have, at various points, of course, we have had this in my experience, and we certainly seem to have today, a challenge with regard to making some investment decisions that have been delayed and delayed and delayed. And I understand that there comes a point at which one needs to make the decision. And I am not daunted by that reality. But I don't today, until I can get in, if confirmed, and get a team in place and start to really look at the analysis that's there. I don't have a firm understanding today of what the consequences are going one way or another.
Well, I would look forward to hosting you in Minot on your way to Alaska.
Thank you.
So you can take a good look at
Thank you.
Cost of delay. But the other issue that I haven't heard a lot about yet, but you've written about, which I've appreciated, and that is the impact on non-proliferation, the impact of delay and maybe uncertainty from our allies, whether it's Japan, South Korea, others, that rely on our triad umbrella. Maybe you could expand a little bit on that, because I have appreciated some of your writings on that topic.
Well, thank you, Senator. As you may be able to tell from some of my answers, I believe that the alliance network that the United States maintains is a significant comparative advantage over competitors. And I think we should be pretty strategic about how we consider the allied perspective so that we advance that advantage. And one of the areas where the U.S. has built up credibility with allies is through its extended deterrent. That extended deterrent has a nuclear component. There are allies who very much rely on the United States' nuclear assurances, and that helps dissuade their own internal dynamics that might look to develop nuclear weapons themselves. It helps dissuade that viewpoint. So I think it has a significant non-proliferation benefit to the United States by keeping countries that might otherwise pursue nuclear weapons from doing so.
Thank you for that. There are a whole host of other issues, but maybe I'll try to lump them all into one, and you can just respond to all of them. We've talked a lot about transparency today. You and I talked about budget transparency. I raised a concern about how some entities have had their budgets hidden from the American people for quite a while, and I worry that some of the secrecy might be more to avoid scrutiny, frankly, than to protect capability. I'm going to avoid some of the specific stuff in this setting, but can you promise to look at some of the organizations and programs within the Department of Defense to make sure the public knows, or even frankly the Congress knows, to the maximum extent possible where the money is going? I'm talking about pass-through budgets that give a false sense of that budget level. The other thing is, again, on your way to Minot on your way to Alaska, I'd love to have you come to Grand Forks as well. And, you know, there are only 2 bases left between Michigan and Montana along the northern tier. That Arctic mission is very important. Obviously, Minot plays an important role in that. The other one being Grand Forks with its ISR missions. And I'll just throw ISR out there as well. You and I talked about the importance of ISR, particularly in the Middle East, Africa, other places. And some of the cannibalization, as I see it taking place, to make room for these more modern systems. Just a sense of as the COO, I appreciate that illustration. You know, what your thoughts might be on how we balance some of those budget stresses and strategic needs.
Sure, Senator. Let me first comment on the transparency point. I will commit to looking into the questions around, in particular, the pass-through budget with the Air Force, but also more generally looking at the transparency questions to ensure we're telling taxpayers and, of course, members of Congress the maximum that we can do that is operationally safe and wise. The challenge of balancing ready today and ready tomorrow is sort of at the heart of how the Department of Defense is constantly working through its budget and program alignment. I think that tension will exist at any resource level, and I would anticipate that being a major issue that I would face if I were confirmed. I do think that the imperative to be ready tomorrow is very significant right now. I think the resources will always, as I said, be tight and can be especially tight right now. So we're going to probably have to think about doing things differently. And that's where concepts become so important, to figure out how we connect the resources that it's really the aims we have to the capabilities we want in a fiscally responsible way.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all of that, and I look forward to supporting your.
Thank you, Senator Cramer.